Okay. Hello, boys and girls. Guess who's back? Well, I didn't really. Kind of. I mean, every time I say that, it makes it sound like I'm gone on another bloody hiatus. Okay, so, this is interesting. As soon as I was starting to record this, um, an update had happened. So, yeah, that's actually interesting. I'm a little behind on uploading a few video recordings I have, but that's fine. Um, so I basically okay now because I'm a little behind on uploading videos. I have yet to see any comments if anybody wants to hear me talk or not. First things first, let's feed the boys. Okay, so oh wait, no, that's not it. This one. Okay, we got a lot of food. We have a lot of food. I know what I'm gonna do. Overkill? Maybe, but keep in mind in real life, and people don't know about this, which, I can't blame them. I didn't fully know it either until later on. Um, the human body, when it doesn't get what it needs, there are two ways to die from it: starvation and dehydration. Dehydration. I cannot speak properly. What is wrong with me? In terms of starvation, I think you'll last a week without food. Then you just die. Well, kinda. Something like that. But when it comes to H2O, you can last. Okay, I'm trying to remember the accuracy of how long you would last. If someone knows, please put in the comments. I have to look it up later. But you can last at least more than a week if all you do is drink water. Why? Because that is what the human body is mostly consists of. H2O. Okay, I gotta put down some coffee beans. I don't need to explain myself. Okay. So, stacking up on H2O, believe it or not, can actually help you live longer. So, when someone asks you a trick question like, hey, would you rather last this long without food or last this long without H2O? Pick H2O. Stick with H2O. And I'm not saying go on without it. I mean, drop the food and stick with, the water. Because you can actually live longer than you would if all you had was just the food. Wow! They changed the layout. They changed the freaking layout. I was okay with the previous one, but this right here, the threat level, I gotta say, I like this a bit, much more. This one's okay. I prefer the old layout when it comes to, let's say, available resources. I prefer the old one. But the threat level? Oh, I like this one. That's creative. Okay, so I went off and saved this guy from his fate there. So, what we shall do is we shall subject him to the terrors of what happened to our friend. Yeah, I got so flabbergasted by that little... Oh, hold on. Munchies. Yeah, okay, I got so caught up on that little change. Oh, bloody hell. Okay, so... Wait, so... Threat level's low, but it's mostly... Okay, of course it's gonna be food, but... Can't complain. Alright. So, my life. How's it been going? Not the worst. I've worked on some personal projects. There was slow progress being made. Wow, they fixed that one. They kind of took a delay because I had to take care of a couple things. But as you can clearly tell, I have obviously not given up on them. Oh no. Wow. Okay, the reason why I wasn't that quick is because in this update, they can hear the doors open, or at least depending on the situation. Man, this music. Okay. Things are about to get nuts. Boom. Come on. Come up here. I dare you. I dare you. Hold the bloody gun still, you twat. I'm gonna have to censor that. Okay, so, my life was that it's been. Okay, so long story short, as I stated, my workplace is not the best, and a lot of people will say, well, that's just life. That's true, but mine is more questionable. Long story okay, now, I'm not afraid to really call out names, but the only reason I'm not doing it is the fear that people will... Okay, listen, I can be a fighter. I've been through a lot in my life, but the thing is that if I can avoid trouble, I like to, well, avoid trouble. And because of that, if I were to go off and give out a bunch of information, it could lead people into finding who I am and where I live. And I don't want that to happen. And people will say, you sure you're not afraid that the company will sue you? One, I can actually explain it in a way that won't put the company in trouble, because as far as I'm aware of, the company is unaware of it. And if it was aware of it, you know what? Screw them. Screw them. I don't care. We've been... So, you know what? Let me explain what's going on. So, long story short, we have a boss who doesn't do the best job of training his workers. He basically just puts us in a video room, a room with a, computer with some videos that teaches us how not to get sued. Does it suck? Yes. Because it doesn't really teach anybody what they need to know. And because of that, we end up... It's easy to make mistakes like that. And you may think, like, well, that doesn't necessarily sound too bad. Just teach them yourselves. We do that at times. It's just that we end up with workers who don't want to listen. And you'll say, oh, that's a given. Well, true. And that in itself isn't really the issue. The issue is when a worker goes off and does stupid things... And when we report them, things are not always being done about it. Sometimes they are, but many times they're not. And this has led to bad actors going off and making things harder for us, and they get away with it. To make matters worse, when I did try to report last time, some individuals are so heavily favored, the people in the store, depending on who you're talking to, will outright insult you. So the ones who are in charge with keeping people feeling safe and all that stuff, they're not doing their jobs. Matter of fact, after the recent incident, okay, not just one incident, it was actually a series of incidences, me and a few other workers no longer feel safe, because I was basically reporting something that was, now, some would say what I reported is considered reporting harassment. Others say it says that yes, it's verbal abuse, but it's not harassment. I'm not sure about that, but I'm just gonna let you guys decide on that one, because when it comes to all these technicalities, I'm just, I don't think it really matters. That sounds stupid, but if you stop and think about it, at this time, it don't matter. Okay, I was not expecting these guys to just straight up... Can they break in? The AC doesn't work, so we have to work in hot conditions. Like, the morning... Like, this is summertime right now, by the time you're watching this. And... when you get there in the mornings, the outside's not that hot. It's manageable. But when you get inside, inside is really hot. Outside is cool in the mornings, but inside is hot. Sometimes it's just hotter than the outside. So we said, hey, you need to fix the AC, please. It's difficult to work in these conditions because we are sweating. We are trying to keep up with good hygiene, and we're trying not to sweat like crazy. We're trying to put on a, how do I put this? An appearance that's presentable, believe it or not, and that's kind of ironic considering that we've had many workers, and I'll admit I'm sort of one of them, but it depends on my schedule. Holy jeez. Holy jeez. I'm gonna wait for them to come to me if possible. I gotta say, this layout, this setup towards... Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so basically, long story short, the work environment is just not comfortable. And it is extremely, yeah. And plus, we ended up sweating to the point that we actually unintentionally gave off some unpleasant smells. Is that our fault? No. It's not. Then there was the part where they would try... Oh, heck no. Son of a gun. Bloody hell. Ouch. Wait, seriously? Although seeing those water containers, I should have expected as much. Okay. Man, this new stuff can easily... Alright, anyways, So, yeah, we basically tried to talk to them about our problems. They waved us away. They called us lazy, which is horrendous. I mean, not horrendous, but it is hogwash. Look, you can make comments about me, you can make comments about some of the bad actors. I mean, I show up, I do what I can. Am I perfect? No, but I do my best. But the problem is that you don't talk trash to my coworkers. They have not done anything wrong. They are hardworking people. Matter of fact, they would try to find ways to punish others unfairly. Why? I don't know. Perhaps they're trying to use underhanded tactics to save money. Okay, here's an example. When you have to train people, depending on where you work at, they give you extra money because you're basically training them to do something. Is it always the case? No. No, it's not going to be the case all the time. So if you go to a workplace and be like, oh, they're going to have me do this and that, I'll get extra money. No, you won't. You might, but that is not guaranteed. Each work environment has their own set of rules, especially depending on where they're at. So they would have people who hardly know jack squat teach other people who don't know jack squat. And you'll probably wonder, well, how did you get good training? Because when I started, I had excellent co-workers who no longer work there. But I'm still in contact with a couple of them, at least. They are living a very good life, and I'm happy for them. I'm not exaggerating. It is really good. Other than that, one situation happened where I was accused of complaining on getting items because customers would leave things in places they shouldn't be, which is unbelievable, especially in the parking lot. I am tasked with retrieving that and carts. And they would accuse me of complaining too much. One, the only time I would complain if our parking lot's not the best, but the customers are arguably what the heck? Burn them. As if the smell wasn't enough, some of the corpses that have gathered outside the shelter are twitching and convulsing. We should gather up and burn the bodies to be thorough. 4 wood removed. Lovely! How much wood do I have? Okay, I got 14. That's not bad. I'm gonna have my guy here get some sleep. They say I don't communicate? Nonsense. I actually communicate with my customers just fine, actually. They say I complain too much? Unless someone is about to hit me with the car, I don't really complain. If anything, I go out and do that part of my job to retrieve items and put them back, like carts, as a way to clear my head, relax, and just help me take my mind off of things. And when I do complain, I talk to my coworkers about it away from customer ears. Unless a customer's walking up behind us and they're eavesdropping, which is... I have not dealt with that yet, surprisingly. I don't really complain to anyone else. So that suggests the workplace has a rat, which is not far-fetched. In the future, I will actually share stories about... What is this guy's problem? Okay, well, that's good news. Wow. I'll send him out over there. And in terms of not smiling enough, look, I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to leave you to debate about that because quite a few of us do smile. Other times we don't. And when we don't, it's most of us. And again, they've been cutting out hours as punishments for not being reliable enough. They... Look. I've been here for a number of years. There have been verbal abuse from individuals at my workplace who should have been fired a long time ago. And considering I've been there for a long time, yeah, you'll probably say, well, why didn't you report it? Because these things would happen sporadically. Okay? They happen sporadically to where... How do I put this? And made the mistake of initially believing there was nothing to report. That was my fault. I should have done so when I had the chance. But I was stupid enough to not do it. And by the time I am doing it, the only thing I can report now are basically the things that are currently happening. Recent. Because, again, we've had quite a few instances where people were not feeling safe. And we want this work environment to feel safe. We don't want to go to work worried of being harassed or being followed in the parking lot, or be threatened by customers who say stuff like, "Oh, if you don't do this and that, we're gonna come back and they threatened our safety. I'll leave your imaginations." And there have been times individuals at the work environment would either talk or make underhanded threats to us to not call the cops. Now, they have surprisingly yet to do this with me. I have been threatened, but I didn't bother with doing much because I can take care of myself if I have to. Will I call the cops? Of course I'm gonna call the cops. Why wouldn't I be? Now that would be a stupid thing to do, to not call the cops. And because that they tried to cut my hours because of some things that, like I said, if I see something horrendously wrong, I will call it out and I will report it. I mean, heck, I've even done so whenever people try to, again, threaten or harass coworkers. And I got chewed out for it. And as soon as I was getting more hours, now you could say this is a coincidence, and you could be right. But I'm not gonna lie, it's also possible it may not be. But it does feel like... feel, not guarantee. What you feel is not always going to be something that is a guarantee at times. Keep that in mind. Facts is what matters, not your feelings. With that being said, it does feel like retaliation against me for making reports. And because of that, I had to go into some of my own money that I would try to save. Not too much. Let me make myself clear. I'm not breaking any rules against the iOS. Believe me, anything I have, the iOS knows. But I would have to dip into that, and I would have to use it to survive. Is it the worst? No. I've been through a lot in my life to where that, honestly, it's not as bad as it would be compared to a person who wouldn't know what to do. I've been able to do it enough to where that I still got some decent cash on me. But because I have to go off and do that, to pay rent, not food bills, groceries, phone bills, etc., that is not easy. And like I said, it's a struggle. It is. Does my work environment care? No, they do not care. They tried to make it like it's not only mine, but my coworkers' fault. They even called them lazy. And again, that is nonsense. One of my coworkers recently became manager, and she earned it. She earned it through genuine hard work. So, needless to say, considering they've been doing stupid stuff like this for a good while, they're angering the wrong people. What do you mean by that? Is that a threat? No, I'm not making threats. What I mean is that in life, you gotta be careful with what your actions are. It is a guarantee or a given that actions, no matter good or bad, will always have consequences. That is an undeniable truth. But here, you're angering people who are genuine hard workers. Who has not done anything wrong. I mean, sure, they may have made a couple mistakes. Who hasn't? But when you're angering this many people, it is a matter of time until you anger someone who is not afraid of consequences. As a matter of fact, they're the type who will say, consequences be damned, you wrong me, I'm gonna have to fulfill an obligation to do it back to you. Is that the right mindset? I'm gonna be real with you, in life, there have been times that it has been needed. I'll get into that bit later, but I'll tell you a story. I used to live in a high crime rate neighborhood. Well, not a high crime rate neighborhood, a couple of them. I was broke. I was a broke kid. My mother, as flawed as she was, did her best to take care of me. And I'll appreciate that. I will. It's the reason why I have such strict standards. And I feel like now these days people don't have that anymore. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's just... Wow. That poor bloke. What the heck? I am closing this door just in case. Oh, I got really thrown off. Oh, well, ain't you just lovely? Do we have a survivor here? I think in the update patch notes it says there's a survivor. Okay, anyways, okay, so... Yeah, I lived in a high crime neighborhood. Well, a few. And there was an incident in one of my school. Now, there's been a number of incidences. Incidences. I don't even know if I pronounced that correctly. I am too focused in this. And honestly, I don't even want to call them that. It's like saying, I sound like Donut Operator. If you know who I'm talking about, he is a, used to be in the army, a police officer. He also hates calling these things accidents or whatever it is. But essentially what happened was we would have, and I'm not saying this is valid. Do not mistake me saying I validate any of this stuff. I don't. But what happened was in school, and this happens today, teachers don't do a whole lot to protect kids. And it becomes a lot like prison. And you may think, oh, you're just exaggerating. I cannot fault you for thinking I'm exaggerating. But there have been many times that they would be deliberately neglectful. No survivors. Oh, I'm gonna regret this. I do not have much of a choice. Anyways, we ended up in school lockdowns quite a bit. From people armed with what I believe was a hatchet on a school premise to suspects cutting across the schoolyard. And teachers who would either threaten us to use as human shields if we don't shut up, to teachers who would literally turn the blind eye and say, hey, I didn't see it, so you're lying. We had one kid in the school where, allegedly, I don't know all the details, but considering how much crap was allowed to happen, the harassment was not good. Oh shit. I went in and grabbed what I could. Anyways, so what happened was, because the teacher deliberately did nothing, and they just walked out of the class because they're like, oh, you kids are a bunch of sissies these days, even though the kid wouldn't stop harassing her, saying horrible things to her, and I believe hit her in the head with, I believe, a school textbook. The teacher walked right out, and the student just, I don't know exactly what happened, but if I recall correctly, the student just got up, took another kid's pencil, walked up to another student, and basically, let's just say it was like what happens to undesirable people in prison. As far as I'm aware of, the kid was not snitched on because of one of two things, maybe both. And I can't help but think it's mostly the first one, then the second one. And that is, other kids were just too afraid to do anything. And because of that, nobody was actually arrested, surprisingly. And that due to them being afraid, you know, again, yeah, they would just, the kid was allowed to walk away. Again, no evidence. But I can't help but feel that has to be false because fingerprints. But we did had an ambulance that showed up, and there was panic. And there was word that someone did got, you know, poked, if you catch my drift. YouTube has ridiculous censorship rules. It is ridiculous. It's almost dystopic. Anyways. But the kid who was accused of it was still seen walking around at school. So something probably didn't happen. Either way, someone got ticked off and someone got poked with a sharpened pencil. And ever since then, nobody messed with the kid. And you're probably thinking, like, oh, well, if it's going to be run like a prison, you might as well expect them to act and use rules like a prison. To whoever assumes that, I'm going to let you know right now, that is not always the case. I know, baffling. But another thing to note is that these kids that I've dealt with, again, they were my age. Well, I was their age. We were all young. We were like, either 14 or younger. They were hypocrites. They were like, oh, no snitching. Oh, he's a snitch. But when you go off and you do something, they do that to you. But when you go off and you do what this kid did, again, I'm not promoting it. I'm not. They're not going to say anything because they're genuinely afraid. But can you blame them? Technically, you know what? On one hand, because of the school teachers who don't do anything, we've also ended up with school teachers who actually promote stuff like this. I'm not Why did I put her here? Exit. Um, but then again, though, I don't know, man. Kids' brains are underdeveloped. Even if you tell them, hey, be good and don't do stupid stuff, they're bound to do stupid stuff. Why? They're kids. But I'm not gonna lie, I'd be tempted on beating Okay, let me make myself clear. If I was at their age, I got into fist fights when I was a kid, and there was sometimes I had to turn my back because some of them would try to set up a trap for me. Did I counter it? Oh yeah, plenty of times. But it got to where that I just want to mind my own business. I don't care what they're doing. I just want to be left alone. I want to relax. I want to chill. And there have been times that people would just actively target me. For what reason? It would vary. But the sad truth is, they will target you no matter the reason. So, on one hand, to an extent, yeah, these kids should have never started that beef with the other kid, because they were asking for it. Do they deserve it? No. But it was bound to happen, and it did happen. Another thing to keep in mind is that this is really on the teachers. It is. It is really on the teachers. There's no two ways about it. They are responsible, and I know, I can see what people are going to say. Wait a second, how did I go from talking about... Oh yeah, that's all, I was making an example. Okay, so long story short, people pushed the wrong kid's buttons and the kid snapped. There we go. So here I am, I'm at work, I'm trying to just do my thing, I'm trying to just focus on getting my job done, because as much as I don't like what was happening, there's not much I can do. Could I make a report? Yes. So what I'm doing is I'm currently job hunting. And when I find a new job to work at, I'm going to leave my current job. Why? As I said earlier, there are people who are getting angry. And we've had people who were wrongfully fired who were, to put it lightly, they were really angry. And because this has happened with so many people, if something were to happen, I'm being genuinely serious here, but I'm afraid I would not know who did who. I wouldn't be able to point the finger and say, oh, it's them. And I wouldn't be able to, you know. And second, why would I want to? I'm a civilian who works at a store. If something escalates to the point that someone gets hurt because the neglect by individuals at the work environment, as I said earlier, that is genuinely on them. They brought it on themselves. We made reports, and they chose to do nothing about it. Okay, so the more you do nothing, or the more you are selective, the more it's going to escalate to where something extreme is going to happen. Again, I'm not saying I promote it. I don't. But it's something you should expect. Your store is only as successful as not only you, the person who runs it, but your workers. If you have good workers, you have a good store. If you don't treat them right, the performance will immediately fall due to a lot of reasons. A lot. And that is the truth right there. That has happened, and that is what's currently happening. We received a notification that, hey, you people are not doing your jobs well. Do better. And we already told them, you want us to do better? Either increase... Okay, here's the thing. When you work at places, they're not going to always be able to increase your pay. Why? Economic issues. Some places just cannot afford it at all. It is what it is. But, with that being said, you need to treat your workers better. Don't yell at them. Don't blame them for everything. Especially at a work environment where you deliberately have people who don't know what they're doing. teach other people who don't know what they're doing. You gotta make the work environment feel safe. So if we fill out a report because we feel that we are not safe, you gotta get off your butt and you gotta investigate. You gotta look into it. If you don't, it can escalate. Not only would the good workers snap, but the person who is doing whatever inappropriate thing they're doing would feel empowered. And when they feel empowered, they would escalate their actions to the point of someone getting hurt. We actually had a situation where one of our coworkers were being followed to the parking lot. And that, I can't go into details too much, not for legal reasons. But needless to say, we were able to make sure, well, my coworkers did. I didn't know it was happening because I was in the men's room. By the time I got out and I wanted to know, hey, what's going on? Where's everybody? Everything that has happened, and thankfully the person was okay. The other person was lucky they didn't get put in the hospital because we had veterans there. And like a person who would serve their country, they would make sure those who are innocent are protected. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to get that person in trouble. I'll be fine. The other person, I don't know. But they don't work there anymore, so it probably don't matter. Needless to say, work environments need to be secure. Serious reports need to be taken seriously. If you can't pay your workers that well, treat them with respect. Otherwise, they will leave you. And we've had one or two people leaving already. Again, I'm gonna just say it real quick. If you think I'm making anything of this up, not really. I'm being vague, and I am hiding details. And it's possible I might be getting something wrong, because I don't want anybody to be found, questioned, or doxxed. I want people to be safe. Genuinely. I want people to be safe. So, I'm trying to do my best to take precautions for that. I'm getting tired of my work environment. I'm getting tired of not getting paid enough to put up with being yelled at for something that I can only do. Because there have been times where I'm literally the only guy in that area doing this and that. And there's no one else there because we're understaffed. And then they would turn around and tell us, no, we got plenty of staff. It's just you. I'm tired of making reports that are not always taken seriously. And I'm being called a liar. And then my co-workers have to pay for it. Because, keep in mind, it's not just about me. If I see something wrong, I will call it out. Because this place, any place you work at, it needs to be a safe location. To ignore it, you're just asking for horrendous trouble. And if you get sued because of it, hey, you know what? That's on you. Would you get off the chair? Holy jeez, is it my mouse?